The screaming didn't stop that night. Even when the power went out, even when the guards locked themselves inside the control room, the air was heavy, thick with panic and sweat. Deep inside Rikers Island, chaos had taken over. Inmates banged on their doors, yelling for help. Someone shouted, "Yo, he's not breathing. Somebody get a CO." But no one came. When the lights flickered back on, blood covered the floor of cell block D, and 3 men were missing. That night changed everything. It wasn't the first time someone almost died inside Rikers, but it was the first time the truth started to leak out. Because one of those men survived. And when he got out, he decided to tell everything. But before we get there, you need to understand what Rikers Island really is, and why surviving it is harder than anyone outside could ever imagine. When you first arrive at Rikers Island, it doesn't feel like a jail. It feels like a place that exists outside the world. A place that swallows people whole. Marcus Slim Hayes was only 19 when he got sent there. Charged with robbery. First offense. He thought it'd be quick, maybe a few months. He was wrong. The bus stopped at a massive gate surrounded by razor wire. Overhead, a faded sign read, Rikers Island Correctional Facility. As Slim stepped off, the heat hit him first. Then the smell. Sweat. Bleach. Fear. One of the older inmates whispered, "Keep your eyes open, young blood. This place'll eat you alive." And within hours it did. Slim's first fight happened the same day he arrived. He didn't start it, but that didn't matter. In Rikers, weakness is a target. He was in the intake dorm when a tall guy with tattoos on his neck asked, "Where you from?" Slim said, "Harlem." The guy smirked, "Then you better fight like you from Harlem." Before Slim could even respond, a punch cracked across his jaw. The dorm exploded in noise. Fist shouts, chaos. The guards didn't move. They just watched through the glass like it was normal. When Slim woke up later, blood crusted on his lip, a quiet voice said, "Welcome to Rikers. Lesson 1, don't ever look scared." That was the first night he realized. This wasn't about serving time. This was about surviving time. Weeks passed. Slim learned fast. Rikers were the world with its own laws, gangs, politics, and silent rules. Every move mattered. Who you ate with, who you talked to, how long you stayed in the shower. The Bloods ran most of the dorms. The Trinitarios controlled the phones. And the guards? Half of them picked sides. Slim stayed quiet, observing, surviving. But even silence could make you a target. One night, rumors started flying around the block. Someone said a guard was helping a gang sneak in weapons. Another rumor claimed an inmate had caught it on a hidden phone. No one knew the truth, but everyone wanted that phone. By the next morning, the tension was so thick you could feel it in the air. Nobody talked. Nobody trusted anyone. Then came the sound. A distant crash from the next cell block, followed by screams. The guards called for lockdown. 24 hours. No phones. No visits. No sunlight. That's when Slim knew something big was coming. Something worse than fights, worse than beatings. And when it came, nobody would be ready. When Rikers goes on lockdown, the silence is worse than the noise. No movement. No sunlight. Just the sound of metal. Doors locking, trays sliding, boots stomping. For 3 days straight, tension built like a bomb waiting to go off. Whispers traveled through vents and under doors. Everyone was talking about the phone. Some said it had proof. Videos of guards beating inmates. Evidence of corruption. And one clip showing something nobody was supposed to see. Slim didn't know what was real. But he knew this. Whoever had that phone was in danger. Then, on the 4th night, something happened. Around midnight, Slim heard footsteps, fast ones. Then the sound of keys rattling. Someone was running down the tier, whispering, "They're searching cells." Moments later, guards stormed in. On your feet, hands behind your back. They flipped mattresses, tore through lockers, dumped food, photos, letters, everything. But they didn't find the phone. Hours later, when it was over, Slim noticed something strange. One of the guards, Officer Ramos, looked more nervous than the inmates. He kept glancing around, sweating, pacing, like he was hiding something too. By morning, rumors changed again. Now they said Ramos was the one who'd helped sneak the phone in, and that it wasn't just for the inmates. It was for someone on the outside. Slim tried to stay out of it. He kept his head down, spent his hours reading, trying to avoid the chaos. But in Rikers, the chaos finds you. Later that week, while Slim was cleaning near the showers, a folded piece of paper slid under his foot. He opened it. Inside, 3 words. "You got it." He froze. Then, before he could react, another inmate walked by, gave him a quick look, and whispered, "Meet in the laundry room, midnight." Slim didn't know what to do. If he showed up, he could die. If he ignored it, someone might think he had the phone and kill him anyway. That night he went. The laundry room was dim. Just one flickering light, the smell of bleach thick in the air. 2 inmates were already there. One of them, a tall Dominican guy known as Ghost, was leaning against the dryer. Ghost looked at Slim and said, "I know you don't got it, but they think you do. So if I were you, I'd find it fast." Before Slim could ask what he meant, the siren blared across the block. Something had happened again. Guards were running. Smoke filled the hallway. Someone yelled, "He's down. He's down." Inmate or officer, nobody knew. And just like that, Rikers was back on fire. Rikers Island was on lockdown again. But this time it wasn't planned. The riot started fast. Nobody knew who threw the first punch. But within minutes, C Block was chaos. Fists, shanks, smoke, guards yelling through the intercom, "Get down, get down." Slim was trapped in the hallway near the laundry room. He couldn't see much, just flashes of orange jumpsuits, and the flicker of fire from a burning trash bin. Someone shoved him hard against the wall. "Move, move." An inmate ran past, bleeding from his arm. Then, the lights went out. Music drops. Complete silence for 3 seconds. Darkness swallowed everything. All Slim could hear were screams and the sound of boots running. In the blackness, someone grabbed his shirt. "Yo, Slim." It was Ghost. He whispered fast. "They're looking for the phone. They think Ramos hid it in C Block." Slim tried to pull away, but Ghost held tighter. "You don't get it, bro. They think you got it now." Before Slim could respond, the floodlights snapped back on. Guards stormed in, batons raised, gas masks on. Faced the wall. Hands up. But the inmates didn't listen. They were done being scared. Someone yelled, "We ain't animals." Then a chair flew. A bottle shattered. Tear gas filled the air. Slim coughed hard, his eyes burning. He dropped to the floor, trying to breathe. Everything blurred. Shouts, boots, gas, chaos. Through the haze, he saw Ramos, the same nervous guard, rushing toward the back exit. In his hand was something small and black. The phone. Ramos looked terrified. He slipped, fell hard, and the phone skidded across the floor, stopping just a few feet from Slim. For a split second, the world froze. Everyone saw it, the secret everyone was fighting over. Then 3 inmates lunged. Ramos screamed. The guards moved in, and Slim made a choice. He grabbed the phone. When he looked up, everything around him was chaos. Smoke, blood, panic, and somewhere in that madness, a guard's voice shouted, "Lock him down. He's got it." Slim ran. Down the hall, through the kitchen, across the yard. He didn't know where he was going, only that if they caught him, he was dead. He ducked into a dark storage room, heart pounding, so loud it felt like it shook the floor. He opened his hand. The phone was cracked, but still working. On the screen was one video, a file named evidence_3. He hesitated, thumb hovering over it. Then, somewhere outside the door, he heard boots. They were coming. He pressed play, and what he saw on that screen changed everything. Inside that dark storage room, Slim stared at the cracked screen, his hands trembling, his heart pounding so loud. He could barely hear the voices coming from the hallway outside. He pressed play. The video was shaky, recorded through a hidden camera. At first, it looked like just another fight in the cell block. Guards shouting, inmates on the floor. But then, something different appeared. The camera turned toward a small room with no cameras. A place every inmate whispered about, but no one had proof of. They called it the pit. The footage showed 2 correctional officers dragging a man inside. The man's face was swollen, his hands cuffed behind his back. He was begging, crying, saying, "Please, I didn't do nothing." Then one of the guards stepped into the light. Slim froze when he saw who it was. Officer Ramos. The same officer everyone said was helping inmates. But in that video, he wasn't helping anybody. He was beating the man himself. Punch after punch. Kick after kick. Until the man stopped moving. Slim's mouth went dry. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't. The video showed the guards wiping the floor, dragging the body away, then laughing like nothing happened. At the end of the clip, a voice whispered off camera, "If this ever gets out, Rikers is done." Slim's hands shook as he paused the video. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't trust the guards, couldn't trust the gangs. And if anyone found out he had the phone, he wouldn't make it through the night. Then, bang, the door burst open. 2 guards stormed in, flashlights in his face. "Get down. Get on the ground." Slim hit the floor. A boot pressed into his back. One guard yelled, "Check him." The other guard lifted the phone from Slim's hand. "Got it," he said quietly. Then everything went black. When Slim woke up, he was in a solitary cell. Small, cold, silent. No window. No clock. No voice. Just him and the memory of what he saw. Days passed. He had no idea if it was day or night. No one spoke to him. No one explained why he was there. But every night, he heard the same sound. Footsteps outside his cell. Stopping for a moment, then moving on. Until one night, they didn't move on. The door opened. A shadow stood in the doorway. It was Officer Ramos. He stepped inside, his face calm, but his eyes sharp. He looked down at Slim and said, "You saw it, didn't you?" Slim didn't answer. Ramos smiled slightly. "You should have left that phone where you found it." He leaned closer and whispered, "There are things in this place that stay buried for a reason." Then he turned around and left. The door slammed shut again. Slim sat there in the dark, realizing the truth. That video wasn't just evidence. It was a death sentence. And now, everyone who knew about it was being silenced. But Slim wasn't done yet. He wasn't going to die in that box. Not before the world saw what he saw. And somewhere deep inside that prison, a plan was already forming. In solitary, time doesn't move. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like days. And in the silence, you start to hear things that aren't really there. But Slim wasn't losing his mind. He was planning. After Officer Ramos' visit, he knew he had a target on his back. They didn't just want to scare him. They wanted to erase him. And the only way to survive was to escape. Slim started watching everything. When guards changed shifts, when food trays arrived, when the lights flickered before lockdown, he noticed something. Every third night, one guard would forget to relock the outer gate. After dumping trash from the isolation wing, it stayed open for less than 2 minutes. That was his window. But Slim couldn't do it alone. He needed help, and in solitary, that meant communication. He started talking through the vent, tapping a pattern into the wall. At first, nothing. Then, one night, a tap came back. It was another inmate 2 cells down. They called him Red. He'd been at Rikers for years, and he knew ways out that guards didn't even talk about anymore. Through coded taps and whispers, Red and Slim made a plan. If Slim could get out of solitary, Red could guide him through the tunnels below the laundry area. Old maintenance passages from decades ago. But first, Slim needed a way to unlock his cell. That chance came faster than he expected. During meal delivery one morning, a rookie guard dropped the food tray too hard. The latch on the bottom corner bent slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for Slim to slide something thin through. He broke off a piece of metal from his bed frame, worked it against the latch for days, scraping, bending, twisting, until one night it finally clicked. The door wasn't free, but it was loose. All he needed now was timing. 3 nights later, Slim heard the familiar sound. The trash gate opening. His heart pounded. He pushed the latch. It jammed. He tried again. Click. The door eased open just an inch, enough to slide through. He crept down the hall, moving low, keeping in the shadows. Every step echoed like thunder in his ears. At the end of the hall was the service door that led toward the tunnels. But when he reached for it, it didn't move. It was locked tight. Slim froze. He turned to run back, but a voice behind him said, "Looking for this?" It was Officer Ramos, standing in the dark, holding a flashlight. The beam hit Slim's face. Ramos smiled coldly. "You really thought you could run from Rikers?" Slim backed away slowly. "I just want to live, man." Ramos took a step forward. "You saw too much. That video never existed. And neither will you." He raised his baton. Slim's eyes darted around. The hallway, the broken cell door, the floor. Then he saw it. A loose pipe just within reach. Ramos swung. Slim ducked. The baton hit the wall, sparks flying. Slim grabbed the pipe and swung back. Ramos dropped, unconscious. Slim stood over him, shaking, panting, not believing what he'd just done. The flashlight rolled across the floor and stopped beside Ramos's belt. Attached to it, a key ring. Slim grabbed the keys, opened the service door, and slipped inside the darkness below. The air was cold, damp, silent. A faint light flickered in the distance, and a voice whispered from the shadows. "Right on time." It was Red. He stepped forward with a grin. "Told you I'd get you out." Slim exhaled. "Let's go." But as they started down the tunnel, neither of them noticed the small red light blinking in the corner. A hidden security camera, still recording. The tunnels beneath Rikers Island weren't on any official map. They were old, built decades ago for maintenance crews, then sealed off after a flood in the 80s. At least, that's what the report said. But Slim and Red were walking through them now. The air was damp, heavy with mold and rust. Every sound, every drop of water, every echo of their shoes felt like it was watching them. Red carried a small flashlight. Slim followed close behind. Still gripping the keys he took from Officer Ramos. "Keep quiet," Red whispered. "Sound travels down here." Slim nodded. They walked for what felt like hours, turning through narrow passages, ducking under low pipes. Then they saw something strange. A door, thick metal, with faded yellow paint. Red stopped and ran his hand across it. "This one leads under the kitchen," he said. "If we get through here, we can reach the service dock by morning." Slim stepped closer. "Then what?" "Then we disappear," Red said simply. Slim froze. "Did you hear that?" Red shined the light behind them. Nothing. Just darkness. They kept walking. But the sound came again, louder this time. Footsteps. "Someone's down here," Slim whispered. Red turned off the flashlight. They stood still, breathing quietly. From the blackness, behind them came a voice. Slow, calm, familiar. "You think you can walk out of here?" It was Officer Ramos. Slim's stomach dropped. He looked at Red, whispering, "He's supposed to be unconscious." Red whispered back, "Then who's holding the flashlight?" A bright beam cut through the tunnel. Ramos, standing at the far end, blood dried on his face, baton in one hand, gun in the other. "I told you," Ramos said. "Nobody leaves Rikers." Red took a step forward. "You don't have to do this, man." Ramos smirked. "You don't understand. I'm not just protecting the prison. I'm protecting everyone who built it." Then, before Slim could speak, Ramos fired. The bullet hit the wall near Slim's head, sparks flying as concrete chipped away. "Run!" Red shouted. They sprinted through the tunnels, dodging pipes, slipping on puddles. Ramos' footsteps echoed behind them, each one louder, closer. Red led Slim through a narrow side path. They ducked through an opening barely wide enough to crawl. On the other side, a dark chamber filled with old machinery and water tanks. They hid behind a rusted boiler, gasping for breath. "Did he see us?" Slim whispered. Red shook his head. "No, but we can't stay here." They looked up. Above them, a metal ladder led to a small hatch in the ceiling. Faint moonlight leaked through the cracks. "That's the exit," Red said. Slim started climbing. The ladder creaked, each step echoing in the hollow space. He pushed the hatch. It moved, but barely. He shoved again. It popped open. Cool air rushed in. Slim climbed out, helping Red up after him. They were outside, standing behind a row of old supply trucks near the docks. For the first time in months, Slim could see the city lights in the distance. He whispered, almost to himself, "We did it." But before Red could answer, a voice from behind them said, "Did what?" They turned around. 3 guards were standing there, flashlights in hand, guns drawn. "Get on the ground," one shouted. Slim's heart dropped. Red looked at him, eyes wide. They'd made it out of the tunnels, but they were still trapped on Rikers Island. The night air hit Slim's face like ice. He could taste freedom, and then lose it all in the same breath. 3 guards stood in front of him, flashlights blinding his eyes. Behind him was Red, frozen, breathing hard. They had nowhere left to run. On the ground. "Now," one of the guards yelled. Slim slowly raised his hands. He could hear the waves slapping against the concrete dock. So close, and yet so far. Ramos' voice came through a radio clipped to one guard's vest. "They're armed. Shoot if they move." Red whispered, "They're gonna kill us, bro." Slim whispered back, "Not if we move first." The lead guard stepped forward. Slim's heart was hammering. He looked down at the ground, then at the water behind the dock. The drop was at least 30 feet. Cold, black, deadly. But it was a chance. Red mouthed, "You're crazy." Slim whispered, "You got a better plan?" The guard shouted again. "I said get on the ground." Slim took one last deep breath. Then everything exploded at once. Slim and Red ran. Bullets hit the concrete near their feet, sparking off the dock. One guard screamed, "Stop or you're dead." Slim didn't stop. He sprinted straight toward the edge. The city skyline reflected in his eyes. And then he jumped. The freezing water hit him like a wall. He sank deep, darkness swallowing him whole. He could barely move. His chest burned. But he kicked hard, breaking the surface just in time to gasp for air. "Red," he shouted, coughing. No answer. He looked around. Nothing but black waves and the glow of searchlights swinging over the water. Slim started swimming. Every muscle screamed. His clothes dragged him down. The sound of the sirens echoed above. Then, they were looking for him. Searchlights sweeping back and forth. Voices shouting from the dock. "Target in the water. Don't let him reach the shore." Slim kept swimming, each stroke slower, heavier. His body was freezing, but the thought of Rikers kept him going. Then suddenly, thud, something hit his shoulder. A bullet, or maybe a rubber round. He didn't know. He just knew the pain was real. He went under again. The water filled his mouth. His lungs burned. And for a second, he thought it was over. But then a hand grabbed him, pulled him up. A voice said, "Hold on, I got you." It wasn't a guard. It wasn't Red. It was a fisherman, an older man in a small boat, his flashlight shaking. "You out your mind, boy?" the man shouted. Slim coughed, gasping for air. "Please just go." The fisherman hesitated, looking back at the flashing lights on the island. Then he started the engine and sped off into the dark. Slim looked back at Rikers Island, the massive gray walls shrinking behind him. He could still see the lights, still hear the alarms, still feel the cold metal of that place in his bones. He didn't know if Red was alive, didn't know if the video was gone, didn't even know if he'd make it to shore. But for the first time in months, he was outside, free, alive, and carrying the truth no one wanted to believe. That night, Rikers Island stayed lit until morning. They said 2 inmates tried to escape. One body was found. The other vanished. But the guards never found the phone. And somewhere, deep in the city, a man named Slim was still breathing, and he still had the truth. 2 days after the escape, Slim woke up in a stranger's apartment, a small room above a corner store in the Bronx. He didn't know the man's name, just that he called himself D, and that he was the fisherman who pulled him out of the river. Slim's arm was bandaged, his head still pounding. He sat up confused. On the nightstand was a bowl of soup, and next to it the phone. Still cracked. Still alive. Slim picked it up and tapped the screen. The video file was still there. Evidence_3. He pressed play. The screen showed shaky footage of a Rikers hallway. Inmates lined up against the wall, hands on their heads. Then Ramos appeared in frame, dragging an unconscious inmate by the collar. 2 other guards followed, laughing. Ramos said, "This one ain't waking up." The camera zoomed closer, and the inmate's face came into view. It was Ghost. They hadn't just beaten him. They'd killed him. Slim's hand started to shake. He paused the video, his heart racing. That was why Ramos wanted the phone. That was why they locked C-Block down. Ghost wasn't just missing. He was murdered. Slim looked at D, who was sitting in the corner rolling a cigarette. "Yo," Slim whispered, "this video, it's proof. They killed him." D didn't even look up. "You put that online, they're gonna find you before sunrise." Slim frowned. "So what? I'm supposed to just hide?" D leaned forward. "Boy, Rikers ain't just a jail. It's a machine. You show the wrong video, they'll chew you up and spit you out." Slim thought about it for a long time. Then he said, "I ain't hiding no more." He connected to D's old laptop, found a public Wi-Fi network, and began uploading the video. As the progress bar crawled up, Slim's pulse quickened. 15%, 23%, 41%. Every noise outside made him flinch. Every footstep sounded like a guard breaking in. Then knock, knock, knock. Someone was at the door. D froze. He mouthed, "Don't move." The knock came again, louder this time. Then a voice. "Maintenance. Need to check the wiring." Slim whispered, "You expecting anyone?" D shook his head slowly. He peeked through the peephole, and his face turned pale. "That ain't maintenance," he whispered. Slim glanced back at the laptop. The upload bar read 79%. He had to stall just a few more seconds. The door handle rattled. D grabbed a wrench from the counter. His voice low, "We got company." Slim unplugged the phone, stuffed it in his pocket, and slipped toward the back window. The door burst open. 3 men in dark jackets rushed in. No badges. No uniforms. Just silence and intent. One of them pointed and yelled, "That's him." Slim jumped through the window. Glass shattered. He hit the fire, escape hard, and rolled, scraping his arm against the railing. Bullets cracked the air behind him, each one louder than the last. He slid down the ladder, hit the street, and ran into the night. Cars honked. People shouted. Slim ducked into an alley, his chest heaving, his mind spinning. He pulled out the phone. The upload had stopped at 92%. He cursed under his breath. He needed Wi-Fi. He needed somewhere safe. Then a voice came from the shadows. "You trying to leak something?" Slim spun around. A woman stepped out, hoodie, phone in hand, camera light reflecting off her face. She said, "You Slim?" He froze. "Who's asking?" She showed her press badge. "Nia Carter, New York Herald." "I saw the video file," she said. "It was uploading to our tip line before it cut off. I'm here to finish it." Slim blinked. "You serious?" She nodded. "But you need to trust me. They're already watching every exit off this block." Slim stared at her. For the first time, someone actually believed him. He handed her the phone. "Then let's finish it." As Nia reconnected the upload, sirens wailed again in the distance. This time louder, closer. The video hit 100%. Upload complete. They both exhaled, relieved but not safe, because in less than 10 minutes, the video would go public, and everyone, from the guards to the warden, would know who leaked it. Somewhere across the city, A phone buzzed inside a government office. A man in a suit watched the upload notification appear on his screen. He muttered just one word. Find him. Fast-paced news montage. Overlapping anchors' voices, police scanners, and city noise. Breaking news tonight. A leaked video allegedly filmed inside Rikers Island shows disturbing footage of correctional officers abusing inmates. Authorities are now investigating the viral clip that surfaced online early this morning under the title, Evidence_3. Officials claim the footage was digitally altered, but protesters outside Rikers Island are calling for a full federal probe. Within hours, the video had millions of views. Every major outlet was talking about it. And while the city demanded answers, the people inside Rikers were living through hell. Guards were furious. Lockdown spread through every block. They searched cells, tore through bunks, beat inmates who refused to talk. And through it all, one name kept echoing through the hallways. Slim. Back on the outside, Slim and Nia were on the move. They'd switched buses twice and crossed into Queens, trying to stay ahead of the people chasing them. Slim sat in the back seat of a crowded bus. Hood pulled up, head down. Every time the doors opened, his pulse quickened. Nia whispered, "It's everywhere now. They can't hide it anymore." Slim just nodded, his voice low. "Yeah, but they can still hide me." He looked out the window. Police cars sped past on the bridge, lights flashing. He knew they weren't looking for some random escapee. They were hunting a problem, a voice that wasn't supposed to exist. Later that night, they took shelter in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Brooklyn. Graffiti covered the walls. Dripping water echoed in the distance. Nia was typing fast on her laptop. They're already calling it the ghost tape. Half the city thinks it's fake. Half wants to burn Rikers down. Slim leaned against the wall. His arm was still bleeding under the bandage. He winced, whispering, "They think I'm a killer, a liar. But all I ever wanted was to survive." Nia looked up at him. "Then tell them your story. Not as some headline, but as you." Slim stared at the ground. "I don't think they want to hear from a convict." She smiled faintly. "They'll hear you, because now you got proof." For a moment, the world felt still. Then footsteps. Heavy. Close. Slim froze. He turned off the flashlight. The tunnel went pitch black. Nia whispered, "You hear that?" The echo came again, faster this time. Voices. Two men. One of them said, "Check down here." They couldn't have gone far. Slim grabbed Nia's hand and whispered, "Run." They sprinted down the tunnel. Lights flickered behind them as flashlights scanned the walls. The men shouted, "Stop. Police." But their voices didn't sound like cops. Nia tripped, hitting the floor hard. Her laptop slid across the concrete. Slim turned back, grabbed her arm, and pulled her behind a maintenance gate. They crouched, holding their breath. The footsteps grew louder, then stopped. One man's voice echoed through the tunnel. "He's here somewhere. Orders say bring him in alive. But if he runs..." A pause. "Make it look like an accident." Slim's eyes widened. These weren't reporters. They weren't cops. They were cleaners, the kind of men who made evidence disappear. He whispered, "They're not going to stop." Nia looked at him. "Then we don't either." Slim pointed ahead. "There's a service hatch about 50 feet up. If we can get through, it leads straight to the old subway yard." They crawled through the dark, keeping low, quiet, every sound amplified by fear. Just as they reached the hatch, a beam of light hit Slim's back. "Got you." Sound, gun clicks, metallic echoes. He turned. One of the men was standing in the tunnel, gun raised. Nia screamed, "Run." Slim dove toward the hatch, kicking it open with everything he had. The metal door burst off its hinges. They scrambled through, just as the tunnel behind them filled with gunfire. They tumbled out onto the yard floor, breathing hard, covered in dust and sweat. Nia gasped, "They're not cops, Slim. Who are these people?" He looked toward the dark tunnel, eyes narrowing. "They work for the ones who run Rikers. The ones who built it to bury people like me." Music softens. A chilling quiet sets in. Nia glanced at the laptop, still clutched in her hands. The video's out there now, but they'll come after anyone who helps you. Slim looked at her, then toward the glowing city skyline in the distance. Then I guess we find out who's really pulling the strings. Because the truth was out. And when the truth leaks, it doesn't stop spreading. News chaos montage, voices overlapping, flashing cameras, and angry crowds outside Rikers. Protests have erupted across New York City following the leak of a video allegedly showing the abuse and possible murder of an inmate inside Rikers Island. Shut it down. Shut it down. Officials at the Department of Corrections deny all claims, calling the video doctored and misleading. Meanwhile, the whistleblower's identity remains unknown, while the city demanded answers. Inside closed offices and quiet boardrooms, powerful people were meeting. Their mission wasn't to find justice. It was to bury the truth. They called it damage control. But really it was a cover-up. Find out who helped him. Already on it. What about the journalist? She disappears. The story dies with her. A lighter flicked. A cigarette burned. And somewhere in that smoke-filled room, a decision was made. The video had blown up. But the victory didn't feel like freedom. Everywhere they went, eyes followed. Every sound made them flinch. Slim sat by the window, watching cars pass. Nia whispered, "They're gonna find us if we stay here." Slim nodded. "I know." He looked down at the phone, cracked, dying. It was the last piece of evidence connecting him to Rikers. But now it was also the target. He sighed. "I think it's time to finish this." That night, they drove to Manhattan. Nia had arranged a secret interview with an independent network, one that couldn't be bought or silenced. Slim walked into the studio wearing a borrowed jacket, his eyes tired but steady. Cameras clicked on. A producer said softly, rolling in 3, 2. "Your name's been everywhere since the video dropped. People want to know, who are you really?" Slim took a long breath. "I'm nobody. Just a man who went to Rikers and lived to tell it." He looked directly into the camera. What they do in there. The beatings, the cover-ups, the lives lost for nothing. It's real. And it's happening every day. He paused. "They killed my friend Ghost. And they tried to kill the truth with him. But not this time." The interview went live. Within minutes, it spread everywhere. TV, Twitter, news alerts. Slim's face was on every screen. And that's when the walls started to crack. The governor has announced a full investigation into Rikers Island. No more cages. Shut it down. 2 correctional officers, including Lieutenant Ramos, have been taken into custody pending inquiry. Slim leaned back, a small, tired smile on his face. "Looks like it worked." Nia smiled too. "Yeah, but you know this isn't the end, right?" Slim nodded slowly. "The system don't change overnight, but at least now people know." He looked out the diner window. Rain falling softly over the city streets. For the first time, he didn't feel trapped. He felt alive. Slim whispered, "Ghost didn't die for nothing." The gates were still there. The walls still stood. But the silence was different now. Heavy. Watched. A new day was beginning. One that the truth had forced into the light. And though Rikers Island still held thousands inside, one man's story had cracked its walls. Just enough for the world to see what was hidden. Because, sometimes, surviving isn't about escaping a place. It's about making sure the world can't look away. Takeaway subchapter. What Rikers Island really teaches us. Rikers Island isn't just a prison. It's a mirror of a broken system. A place meant to hold people, but one that ends up breaking them instead. The story of Slim, Ghost, and Nia isn't just about survival. It's about what happens when silence becomes dangerous, and truth becomes the only weapon left. Every time someone speaks out, every time a story like this reaches the light, it chips away at a system built on fear and control. And maybe one day, those walls won't just crack, they'll fall.